Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from Saba Satellite Channel from Marib. Let's begin with the headlines.
President Al-Alimi calls for stronger sanctions on Houthis in meeting with UK Minister.
Prime Minister stresses reform security and global partnerships in talks with UK Minister.
UN Security Council backs US plan for ceasefire and reconstruction in Gaza.
President Dr. Rashad Mohammed Al-Alimi, President of the Presidential Leadership Council, received the UK Minister of State for the Middle East and North Africa, Lord Hamish Faulkner, in the first visit by a British minister to Yemen in nearly 7 years. The meeting reviewed bilateral relations, developments on the ground and international efforts to secure maritime navigation amid growing threats from the Iran-backed Houthi militia. President Al-Alimi praised the UK's support for the humanitarian response, its assistance in strengthening Yemen's Coast Guard, and its role as pinholder on Yemen at the UN Security Council.
The talks focused on bilateral relations, the latest developments inside Yemen, and international efforts to secure maritime navigation amid escalating threats from the Houthi militia. President Al-Alimi praised the United Kingdom's support for the humanitarian response, its programs to strengthen Yemen's Coast Guard, and its role as a penholder on Yemen at the UN Security Council.
This is a very important partnership between the UK and Yemen. I've been here looking at ways that we can support Yemen, including through the work we do with the Yemeni Coast Guard, the support at health clinics right across Yemen, and indeed work to support refugees and others through our humanitarian program. Yemen faces many challenges, and Britain will be Yemen's friend in trying to help her address the many challenges she faces. I've travelled here to see for myself. I've visited the Coast Guard, I've visited health clinics, I've visited IDP camps. I'm here to see with my own eyes what I can do to help, and I'm very grateful for the hospitality I've received during my visit.
In a relative context in Aden, Prime Minister Salim bin Break held wide-ranging talks today with the UK Minister of State for the Middle East and North Africa, Hamish Faulkner, who arrived with a message of continued British support for Yemen at this critical juncture.
The discussions centered on government-led reforms, economic stabilization, energy challenges, and preparations for the upcoming Health Donors Conference and the first National Energy Conference. The Prime Minister reaffirmed that the government is committed to reconstructing state institutions, improving governance, and restoring essential services, but underscored that sustained international assistance remains vital.
The talks also covered counter-terrorism cooperation and maritime security, especially as the Iran-backed Houthi militia continues to threaten international shipping. Minister Faulkner praised the government's reform efforts and confirmed that London will intensify support for Yemen's Coast Guard and broader security sectors.
Turning to education and regional cooperation, Yemen and Syria are moving to deepen academic and scientific ties in Cairo. In Cairo, Yemen's Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Khalid Al-Wasabi, met with his Syrian counterpart to discuss expanding collaboration in universities, research programs, and support for Yemeni students studying in Syria.
The talks coincided with the Arab League's Solidarity for Future initiative, which aims to strengthen research across conflict-affected Arab states. Both sides also reviewed plans for a new executive cooperation program that would broaden academic exchange and research partnerships. The Syrian minister highlighted the long-standing historical ties between the two countries, while Minister Al-Wasabi welcomed recent advances in Syria's higher education reforms.
And staying with international cooperation, we move to developments in local governance. Yemen and Japan are expanding their partnership as Minister of Local Administration Hussein Al-Aghbari held virtual talks with Japan's ambassador to Yemen, Yuichi Nakashima. The minister welcomed Japan's long-standing development support in areas such as education, health, and municipal services, noting in particular the impact of GICA's training programs for local authority leaders. Programs, he said, are helping strengthen sustainable local development. For his part, the Japanese ambassador praised the minister's commitment to improve local institutions and reaffirmed Tokyo's readiness to continue supporting Yemen's efforts in decentralization, capacity building, and long-term development planning.
Yemen is using global climate stage to call for fairness and stronger support. At the COP30 summit in Belém, the government reaffirmed that climate action is not only an environmental issue, but essential to long-term peace and stability. In Yemen's national address, the Minister of Water and Environment outlined the country's severe climate pressures from deepening drought to destructive floods, underscoring a water deficit of more than 2.6 billion cubic meters per year. Despite the challenges, Yemen says it is raising its climate ambitions and finalizing national adaptation plans, but stresses that progress depends on fair and accessible climate finance and access to clean technologies.
In economic affairs, Yemen's efforts to strengthen export policy and rebuild its productive capacity took a step forward today in aiding. The OECD, working with the European Union, convened a public-private dialogue focused on shaping a clearer national export strategy and improving Yemen's competitiveness in global markets.
Minister of Industry and Trade Mohammed Al-Ashwal said the initiative aligns with the government's broader reform agenda for 2025 and 2026, emphasizing governance, transparency, and the digital transformation of key sectors. He also stressed the importance of integrating the private sectors into national policy making. Participants discussed export priorities, legal reforms, and the tools needed to develop a comprehensive export strategy that supports economic recovery and long-term stability.
In security developments, the Interior Minister is commending the security forces in Marib for what he called major counter-terrorism achievements. In a phone call with Provincial Police Chief, the minister said security units successfully uncovered and dismantled several Houthi terrorist cells before they could launch attacks aimed at destabilizing the governorate. He stressed that Marib's forces are the country's first line of defense, credited for high vigilance and rapid response. The ministry says it will continue supporting the province's security apparatus, as Marib remains a refuge for hundreds of thousands of civilians and displaced families.
As the interim cabinet of Aden is witnessing ongoing government activities, the Ministry of Justice continued its efforts to reinforce the rule of law with a focused session addressing the risks and drivers of terrorism. The meeting gathered representatives from the Interior Ministry, the Public Prosecution, and other state bodies to examine how extremist activities evolve and the legal challenges that hinder the ability of institutions to confront them.
Deputy Minister of Justice Dr. Saad Mohammed stressed that countering terrorism requires coordinated national action and stronger legal frameworks. He said the ministry is working with partner agencies to enhance the capacity of judicial institutions and improve public awareness. Officials also emphasized the need to expand community outreach and specialized training programs that help promote a culture of lawfulness and stability across society.
In economic developments, the Central Bank of Yemen has begun discussions with the OECD on the second phase of key economic resilience project. Deputy Governor Dr. Mohammed Banajah met with the OECD team in Aden to review findings from the first phase and outline upcoming technical support and training that will prepare for a high-level committee meeting involving the central bank and the ministries of planning and industry. Officials say the program is designed to bolster Yemen's economic institutions and support long-term recovery.
In diplomatic developments, Yemen and Austria have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening cooperation during high-level talks in Vienna. Ambassador Haytham Shuja'uddin briefed Syrian Austrian officials on Yemen's economic and security challenges, highlighting government efforts to stabilize institutions and protect international shipping routes from escalating Houthi threats. Austrian officials welcomed these efforts and stressed Vienna's continued support for Yemen's security, stability, and a broader push to alleviate the humanitarian crisis.
In international developments, the UN Security Council has approved a US-sponsored resolution on Gaza, marking a significant diplomatic step toward ending the conflict. 13 members voted in favor, while Russia and China abstained. The resolution backs President Donald Trump's plan for a permanent ceasefire, full humanitarian access, and a comprehensive reconstruction effort. It also calls for a credible path toward Palestinian self-determination and urges global financial institutions to create a dedicated trust fund for rebuilding Gaza.
And now we conclude our bulletin with a critical global alert. The World Food Programme has warned of an unprecedented rise in global hunger, reporting that 318 million people are now facing acute food insecurity, twice the number recorded before COVID-19. WFP official Jane Bauer said the world is witnessing two simultaneous famines in Gaza and parts of Sudan, at a time when humanitarian funding is sharply declining.
He warned that 14 million people are at risk of sliding into phase 4 of severe hunger, while more populations are nearing catastrophic phase 5, especially in Sudan, Palestine, South Sudan, Yemen, Mali, and Haiti. Bauder added that drastic funding cuts have forced the agency to reduce food rations and limit assistance, saying the WFP has had to take from the hungry to feed those on the brink of death.
This has been the news from Saba Satellite Channel from Marib. Thank you for watching and have a good time.